knows it's May 27th, 2020. It's Wednesday.
That's good.
And I am
You
Karen.
even remembered the month, which was
that's right. I'm Karen Sinanutowry. I'm president of the Rotary Club, and I'm broadcasting this Zoom meeting from temporary Rotary headquarters. So welcome all. I'm going to ask you to mute yourself now. And when each speaker is done speaking, of course, we can unmute and clap for them. And, or if I call on you to say something. So today, I know first and foremost, we're all thinking of Bob Keeve, and I just want to say three things at this time. We are going to have a eulogy for Bob. That will not be right away, but of course we'll want to include his daughter Lenore. I have received so many wonderful tributes to Bob and know of others that are out there that I have decided to publish a book for his daughter Lenore. So if you have written a tribute to Bob Keeve or know of one, please send it to me. Also, Carl Silker has agreed to gather some pictures of Bob connected to Rotary, and if you have any, please send them to me. And I hope to finish putting that book together by the end of July. So at the very end of this meeting, I'm going to leave the meeting open because I think we all need to just share a little bit about Bob. So if you want to stay at the end of the meeting and have about 30 seconds to say about Bob, it'll give other people a chance to talk, and I will be leaving the meeting open. Now, here's some business. Annual billing notices will go out in early June. Rotarians wishing to switch to monthly billing should call the office. And Rotarians who currently pay monthly will continue to be billed that way. We will not be collecting prepaid lunch dues until we are able to meet together and also have a chance to work out details with the Fairmont. And finally, we truly understand that some members have been impacted financially by this shutdown. So please contact Leslie Hamilton if you need to make alternate payment arrangements. And I'll make this announcement again in early June. Now, unfortunately, last week we didn't hear from Bonnie Bamberg, who I'm going to ask to unmute herself now. Bonnie and the amazing Rotometer. Bonnie is now going to talk about the committees who have been doing work even during this shutdown. So Bonnie, are you on?
I'm on, Karen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you. Please give us the committees that are continuing to fight for our community.
Well, I'll tell you, starting off with the Climate Action Committee, they had 120 hours. The Culinary Cuisine and Hospitality Committee also logged in hours, as did Downtown Impact, Disaster Relief, as you might expect. ELC was there doing some planning. Fun and Friendship, another good amount. The Golf Committee, they had some fun too.
That 19th hole, yeah.
Yeah. Well, those aren't open yet, just the course. You actually have to do it. The History Committee, International Service had 103. RILA and Interact, V. Weimer's Emerging Artists, Local Impact, Membership, Memory. Oh, the list goes on this month. Military Care, Pause, Photography, Garden, Program, Red Badge, Rotacare, Social Media, Senior Service, and Youth Exchange. I've had some miscellaneous things too that are pretty interesting. Steve Brokenhagen spent 4 hours playing music for minors. Kathleen Thomas was helping fellow Rotarians. Dave worked in food distribution, and Sandra Gill was preparing meatless meals. So for this month, we had a total of 670 hours donated. The total for this year, Karen's year, 7,567 hours.
Bonnie, thank you so much. Ding, 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 ding. Now, my goal was 8,000 hours, and we will have Bonnie appear at the end of June with the rotometer, and I think we're coming close. So please send your hours to Bonnie, and we want to be able to tell the community everything we have, all the hours we have put in to make San Jose and the greater Silicon Valley a better place to live, as well as around the world. So thank you, Rotarians, you're amazing. And Bonnie, thank you so much for keeping track of the rotometer hours.
My pleasure, lots of fun.
Now, I would like Nancy Williams to come in and talk to us a little bit about the gala. Nancy, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, look how hip you look in your backyard. Hey, Nancy, tell us about this unusual gala.
Well, the gala will go on, and we are so excited because this is probably the first time a Rotary Club has ever done a clothing optional gala. So we're hoping that we're going to make black tie mandatory, but you can wear anything you want other than that. So it's going to be a virtual gala, but it's going to be as much like the gala as we can make it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The actual gala, the live event, will be on June 20th, but everyone will be getting a video sent to them probably sometime between May 10th and May 13th. Hopefully you'll get it right after the, I'm sorry, not May, June, right after the June 10th meeting. And it will be an entertaining video that goes over how everything's going to work and how you participate, and also tells you about this great raffle that we've added this year. And the raffle will be an opportunity to win prizes that include, the grand prize is a 5-day stay at a beautiful home in Donner Lake that sleeps 14. So what a wonderful way to come out of this quarantine and socialize with 14 of your great friends. So anyway, we're looking forward to it. We're so glad that most of our sponsors, I believe almost all of our sponsors, that came back with us this year. Sorry, my phone is ringing and I can't make it stop. Are you going to find me for that, President Karen?
Yes.
No fines during the virus. So Nancy has turned off her phone, and at the same time, she's turned off her sound. Can you hear me, Nancy? I love Zoom meetings. There you go. Okay, now you're on.
Well, I just wanted to take a minute to thank all of our fabulous sponsors. Comerica, this is their 20th year, and they're sticking with us, and all of our sponsors stuck with us. And we're gonna make them proud with this event. And we're going to, make money like we always do so we can use it for our important projects in the community. So Comerica, Oracle, Salas O'Brien, Republic Services. I mean, there are so many great sponsors. I hope you get the opportunity to look at the list, and thank all of them if you get the opportunity to see them.
Thank you, Nancy. I just have to tell you that you and Sarah Janigan are amazing to be putting this together. And I hope everyone understands that this will start around June 13th, and we'll open the silent auction. You can look at the items at your leisure, and then our big event will be on the 20th. So it's going to be a lot of fun, even though it's virtual. And again, thank you so much to all of our sponsors. Thank you, Nancy. Last week, we had the Play Garden Committee. We had their dress rehearsal posted instead of their actual little report. So the bonus email this week is the Play Garden. You'll see I've got the Play Garden in my background here. And congratulations to Rotary, because last Saturday was the 5-year anniversary of the grand opening. And our Play Garden ambassadors do a fabulous job having events there, and we can't wait for it to reopen. So thank you, Play Garden Committee, and have a look at a look and a listen at the email bonus clip this week. Now I'd like Jeff Hare to say a few things. He has worked with San Jose State University Department of Urban and Regional Planning, and he has awarded to 2 students the San Jose State University Rotary Challenge Award. Jeff, could you come on?
Thank you very much. Yes, President Karen, we're really pleased to announce that we have finally awarded 2 of our San Jose State Rotary Challenge Awards to Jerry Wilburn and Nick Tostopiak, 2 students, graduate students who did an extensive amount of research in areas related to affordable housing, which was the topic that we had sought to inspire the students to study. Jerry Wilburn did an extensive study in the area of tiny homes, and Nick did his research in the idea of using school properties for teacher housing. Both students did a great job. We reviewed several papers that were submitted by Professor Serena Alexander, and we picked these 2 from the top. We're going to be doing more of these. Each student received a $1,000 award from our Rotary Club.
Jeff, thanks. And I know that each student made a little recording that you made with them. Without further ado, I'd like to play that. Is that okay, Jeff?
Go right ahead.
And congratulations for the work you did in bringing out the talent from San Jose State University. So here we go. And
thank you so much for this prestigious award. I'm deeply touched by receiving this. My name is Jerry Wilburn. I'm a recent graduate of the San Jose State Urban and Regional Planning Department. I hold 2 advanced certificates, one in community development, the other one in GIS mapping. My paper talks about the placement, community integration, and services that a tiny home village should have. The key takeaway from my paper is job training and supportive service housing. With these 2 elements combined, we can end homelessness together. If I had one ask for the audience, is that we expand programs like this in order to combat homelessness. With that, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jerry. That was a great job on your paper, and I think a lot of the people in the audience worked on these tiny homes, and we want to see those become successful. I will make your paper available to any of them who wish to read it. Nick, your topic was also really fascinating, but on a different, for a different audience. Teachers are leaving the area because they can't afford to live here. You decided to look at that in depth, and you studied the idea of having the school districts develop housing on properties that they own. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you found out.
Thanks, Jeff. First off, I just want to thank the Rotary Club for instituting this program. I think it's a great way to foster some new ideas as far as addressing the affordability of housing in San Jose and the area as a whole. My name is Nick Tostopiak. I recently graduated from the master's program here at San Jose State back in December. And my paper was looking at the potential for school districts in San Jose to become landlords for their employees by offering these affordable housing units to them in order to recruit and retain school district staff. Now, the main issue is obviously school districts aren't in the business of creating housing developments. So in order to actually make this a reality, partnerships are crucial. And by partnerships, I mean partnerships between the district and developers, the district, cities, counties, state even. In order to make these financially viable, there needs to be a large amount of support from the community itself. Because school sites are usually in single-family residential neighborhoods, there needs to be a public process in order to turn that land into something that could become multifamily residence. So if there was one action that I would suggest that school districts and other community members take, it's just that supporting these creative solutions is an absolute necessity in order to make them politically viable in San Jose. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Jeff, thank you again. And I want the club to know that this year we have started a new committee, and that's the San Jose State University Committee. Jason Alexander heads that, and you should contact him. But Jeff, you did this through Local Impact, right?
The Downtown Development Committee and the Impact Committee combined forces to do this. And the Impact Committee will continue to work with the housing topics, and Downtown Development will be doing some additional ones with the graduate students at San Jose State.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Jeff. You're an amazing Rotarian. Well, I have a report from Kathy Wiley. All the students, of course, at Washington School are home, but the teachers were very concerned about the 5th grade promotion. Washington School goes to 5th grade, and many of those students, that will be their only ceremony or promotion. So Kathy is helping the principal send out event announcements, programs, promotional certificates, and access to the video of the promotion. Many of the families do not have internet, and so the packet that Kathy has helped send out will allow all children to enjoy a feeling of promotion. So Kathy, you're always so open-hearted and so creative in what you do with Washington School, and this is a wonderful thing for their 5th graders. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Los Amigos Washington School Committee. And now we're going to try something different. This will be our first virtual introduction of a new member, Ramiro Torres. He is an architect, and he's sponsored by Ray Castaneda. And we have as our foil today, Elaine Sullivan. So Elaine, are you here?
I'm here.
Good. And I saw you, Ramiro, you're here, correct?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. So I'm going to put up your fun facts, Ramiro.
Okay.
And Elaine, are you feeling smart?
Maybe.
Do you have your Rotary pin on?
Maybe.
Okay, yeah. Okay, here are the fun facts. Ramiro is the youngest of 10 children. He and his son paint in watercolors, acrylic, and oils. He was chair of the Historic Landmarks Commission from 2014 to 15. Correct me, Ramiro, if that's
Yes,
wrong.
that is correct.
He's the architect for, see, my PowerPoint is off here. He's the architect for rebuilding of the Holy Cross Church in San Jose. His favorite movie is the first Rocky movie. His favorite movie is the first Star Wars movie. Elaine? Yeah. Can you noodle this out? Which is the fake fact?
Well, it has to be one of either 5 or 6 because they both can't be his first. Oh, no, his favorite. Oh, favorite. Okay. Well, first, Ramiro, we're looking forward to having you, architect and construct and build a great reputation with our Rotary Club. Am I allowed to say anything about that, Karen?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And then I wanted to ask him if he knows the first sentence on the 4-way test.
I
No,
don't.
Elaine, this is you being tested, not our new member.
Okay, so just kidding. I'm going to say, I got my notes in front of me. Some of them have gotten wilted because of the heat, but let's see. I think 1 is true. I think 2 might be true. I think 3 is true. I know 3 is true. I know 4 is true.
Elaine, you're talking to yourself now.
I'm going to say his favorite movie is the first Star Wars movie is false.
Okay, Ramiro, could you please fill Elaine in? She gave it her all.
Actually, it was close, but no, my favorite movie is the first Star Wars, not Rocky.
Dang. Well,
Elaine, this was the easiest of all the fun facts we've done all year. This was the easiest. I wish I could double find you.
You can.
Ramiro, Let's unmute and welcome Ramiro. Let's try that, a virtual welcome.
Welcome to the club.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I've
Thank
been
you.
looking forward to this.
Do you have a few words to say? We are so happy to have you join us.
I just want to thank the club for accepting me. I mean, I've always been interested in clubs that do good for the community, social impact, and therefore I think Rotary is going to be a good fit. I'm looking forward to participating and making the best out of my time here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome. And thanks for being a sport.
No, thanks. I am wearing pants, by the way. You know.
You are wearing pants. I'm glad to hear that. TMI, Ramiro. Now, Matt Breaker, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Matt Breaker's here. There he is. Matt Breaker has a call to action for all Rotarians. As a board member, he made an appearance today at a news conference at the County Government Center. Fill us in, Matt.
Yes, thank you, President Karen. That's right. The Santa Clara County is doing a full court press to mobilize volunteers for their contact tracing program. They are looking for 1,000 volunteers, and I think this is right up our alley because it's not just for Rotarians, but people we know. It would be great for college kids as well. And it involves, there's a website there that you can connect to sign up. They'll give you about a week-long training, and then you can do the work. All of it can be done from home and your computer or with a cell phone, and it involves, contacting people who have been diagnosed with COVID and then getting information about who they've been in contact with, and then reaching out to them and trying to get them to quarantine to stop the spread of this disease. And it's a crucial step to helping us move on to the next phase and get us back to full normalcy. So I'm confident Rotary will step up as it always does.
Oh, Matt, thank you so much. And I will post this on the webpage, or I'll ask someone in the office to post it on the webpage. And I know that we'll get volunteers. And Matt, again, thank you very much. And I hope you made us proud at the news conference. I'm sure you did. You're an amazing Rotarian.
Thank you, President Karen. Bye-bye.
So finally, let's see what some of our Rotarians are up to. And please send me your pictures and videos because people have told me they really like seeing what Rotarians are up to. Oh, and Ken's got his hat on. Good, Ken. Okay. Now, Michelle Loxon, there she is looking great. She's going through a little radiation now, and she just is doing very well and wants to send the message that get a mammogram to all the women out there, and it will, you may be able to detect cancer very early as she has. So, Michelle, we all wish you well. Some people are doing crosswords, some people are doing jigsaw puzzles. Karen Fox got a bunch of Legos and created her 2 dogs. So Karen, you are beyond clever. And we have really great news. Mike Block is a grandfather. Isn't that a darling baby? Mike, that baby is cuter than you. Congratulations, Mike. And I know you want a silver spoon, so that will be $100. Now, last week, I was the mystery Rotarian, and I'm shocked that 4 people guessed me, but they've all had hats delivered to them, including Linda Gold in Minnesota, Terry Chapman, Karen Fox, and Steve Prouty. Congratulations to all of you. And I'll have to tell you, my husband took this picture at the beginning of the pandemic, and then that day he came home and said, was that you in the video? So this has worked havoc with him, obviously. Now, here, take a long look. Here's the mystery Rotarian for next week. You get a hat if you guess who it is. And I look forward to seeing if anyone can guess who this Rotarian is. You all had a chance to look at that. That is the mystery Rotarian of the week. And now the time we've all been waiting for. We're going to have personals. And first we'll have Sean Girth, Linda Gold, and then our president-elect, Fernando. So Sean, are you ready to go? And I will bring this down.
I am ready. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, Sean, welcome. We really look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Way back when President Karen and Jenny asked me to do this, it was Mother's Day weekend. And that was such a perfect time because I had this, you probably can't see it, but I had this wonderful Mother's Day book from my daughter where I got to like choose my adventure for Mother's Day weekend, and then she made my schedule for me. And it was so awesome, and it was so useful and timely to framing my comments today because it just showed how my daughter understands me, because one of my choices was as many hours alone as I wanted. And I chose that one for 3 hours for my weekend. But it really connects to the theme of forks in the road that I wanted to share with you today. So I have 2 stories to share with you. And the first is about motherhood. I had grown up never planning to be a mother. I was in fact dead set against it. My grandmother had been in the Women's Army Corps during World War II, and it was some of the best moments of her life. She had purpose, she was in charge, she was doing things, and coming home and going back into the house and being told to have children was really a death sentence for her, like many women of the time. And she used alcohol to cope and became an alcoholic and just really kind of drifted away from her family. And my mom had similar challenges. She never completed college, though she really, really wanted to. And her struggles with staying at home resulted in some mental health and emotional issues and challenges that left a really deep impact on me. And so I decided very early on, probably still in elementary school, that you can't have kind of a career and a life and also be a mother. And I decided this, and I made it so profoundly true. And I made it a truth that I used to make choices about my schooling, my friends, my career choices, and choices of who I would date. But you know, fate has a very funny way of sort of catching up with you and messing with you a little bit. And so, of course, the person that I met and fell in love with and am still head over heels for could not imagine a life without a child or without being a father. And, you know, this was a kind of an interesting fork in the road. And we broke up and we talked and we ultimately decided to stay together. And it all felt impossible at the time because it was so against the truth that I believed was immutable. And when we got back together and finally decided to have a child, it turns out that we were going to have a daughter. And boy, did that sort of wreak havoc on my life too, knowing what I knew about my grandmother and mother. And what I realized is that it wasn't the past that relationship with my daughter. What it was my thoughts about the past. And what I had to do was change my thoughts. And I had to choose what to hold on to and what to give up and what kind of meaning to give to the past. And once I made that shift, everything was possible for me. I realized that I could know myself and have my needs met and have a great career, you know, take my 3 hours of personal alone time on Mother's Day and not feel bad about it for a second. But I could also choose to really enjoy being a mom and a parent and, you know, choose Mother's Day movie night as well and really enjoy watching a movie with my family. My second fork in the road to share with you is related to work. And for the better part of the past 20 years, I had been telling myself that I could be a great number 2 person in any organization, but there was no way that I was number 1 material, no way that I could be a great right-hand person to any executive director, but in no way, shape, or form was I qualified to be an executive director. And I told myself, oh, you don't have the charisma, you don't have the vision, you don't have the ability to unite a team around a mission, you don't have the savviness to keep a board engaged, but you're really good at supporting someone who's good at that. And then I started to really look at my thinking and think, why is this true, and is this even true? And what good is any of this kind of thinking doing for me? And so again, I forced myself to really look at my own thinking and my own self-limiting behavior. And the next time an opportunity came up and someone said to me, hey, why don't you apply for this ED role? I said, yeah, why don't I? And so I did, and I took it. And it's been fabulous. It has certainly been an unexpected journey, starting that role on September 3rd and working in early childhood ed in the times of COVID, but it has been transformative. I have grown incredibly. My confidence in myself has increased. So really, in both cases, why I chose to share them today, whether they personally resonate with you or not, is that what I realized and what I hope is useful for you is two things. One is that when we're faced with a choice, and one of those options is something we've told ourselves that we would never do or we could never do, it might be worth it to take a look again and to consider that absolutely no way option, and to maybe just step into it and take it and see what happens for you. And second, really to be looking out for our own self-limiting thoughts, and thoughts that we say to ourselves, well, this is true, because maybe it's not. And I think that we're all capable of more than we let ourselves believe. And so really be careful. Don't treat a thought like a fact. Challenge your thoughts, because there's probably a lot of really important growth opportunities there. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity. As I was actually working on this, I realized there's another sort of fork in my road, and I've been in my life coming up, and that I've been treating things like facts that are not facts. And it's really sort of reminded me that change is always there, and I can choose to hold on to things, or I can choose to let them go and grow. And in preparing this for you today, it really made me feel ready to take on this next fork. So I hope that you are all staying well and washing your hands often and wearing your masks in public. And I don't know when we'll all be sitting together in the rotunda over lunch, but I look forward to seeing you all again in person whenever that day comes.
Sean, thank you very much. And we'll all unmute and give you a...
Oh, Sean.
And I would like to, Jenny Nichols has sent a reminder to everyone. We are doing personals now as a fork in the road story. And so it is a chance for Rotarians to share a moment or moments in their lives in which they had more than one path to choose. And so thank you for reminding me that, Jenny. I should have said that at the beginning. Our next personal is Linda Gold. Linda is going to dial in now from Minnesota.
Sean, that was awesome. And I'm just so excited to be connected to my Rotary family again. And I don't say that lightheartedly. I have missed you all terribly. I joined this awesome club back in 2004 under Kay Walker's presidency with President Kieran's encouragement and other women in Rotary, and just never looked back. That past president, Jerry Silva, God bless him, I see him on screen, put me on my path to national service in 2006 on a Polio Plus mission to Ghana, West Africa, and after that, more missions with Faces of Hope to Guatemala. Despite having moved to Minnesota in 2018, I haven't been able to cut the cord to San Jose Rotary. It is the best Rotary club in the world. I have attended local Minnesota Rotary Club meetings it's just not the same. And pre-COVID-19, I was coming to California for 6 weeks. And of course, I made sure that I was at a Rotary meeting while I was there. And so I'm really glad that you're Zooming. So now I get to see you every week. When Jenny approached me about doing this personal and suggested that the theme of Forks in the Road, and I started writing my talk, and I realized mine was probably better titled Detours Around Potholes. So here's where we go. I typically cruise along until I see a sizable pothole, or I'm going full speed ahead and oh my God, there it is. And swerve left, swerve right. When cooler heads prevail, I check the rear view mirror, you know, the side view mirrors, and smart calculated moves. But no, the majority of the time it's divine intervention or me just going with my heart, my gut, and instead of logical brain. And ever since I can remember, I swore there had to have been some mistake at the hospital. The people they sent me home with could not possibly be my biological parents. But I know that's not true because I look way too much like my mother, and I'll spare you all the childhood trauma, but suffice to say that the life that was expected of me was not for me. And I started avoiding potholes early on. So I fell in love with the restaurant manager who hired me as a cocktail waitress as one of 3 jobs I was doing. I attended San Jose State. Within 2 months of our first date, we were living together, much to my Catholic mother's chagrin, and 6 months later, we were married. Nearly 4 years later, I discovered I was pregnant with my amazing daughter, Arlen. At a time, I felt like I was finally on a decent career path. I'd achieved a senior level position with a small computer manufacturer and satisfying the wanderlust in my soul. I was able to travel and go to Europe and do distributor sales training and create materials to help promote the company's products and all of that stuff. And this pregnancy, not in my plan. But I stopped and hoped for the best. And at one point in my pregnancy, I had a complication, at which point the doctor said, well, you know, this is a perfect one. And by this time, you know, I had felt that baby growing inside me. A notion crazed me out of my mind. We threw the doctor's ass out of the hospital room, got another doctor, and fast forward 38 years. Arlen Gold is, she's just a pride and joy of mine, and found out this morning she's on this call. So I just want to say that she's healthy, she's successful, she's a past president of her own Rotary Club in Texas and a Texas community volunteer. So late in that pregnancy with Arlen, I became unable to travel and manage sales and marketing internally. And then the early 80s recession hit, and the worked for had gone from 100 employees down to 6. The writing was on the wall, billboard size. So I swerved again and said, hey, how about you put me on contract, and you only have to pay me for the work that I actually do, and I'm going to go home and try to start a business. You just carry the insurance until the baby's born. And so they agreed, and I went home and went through the yellow pages with my portable typewriter. This was before the internet. It was before home computers. And I looked for, you know, computer manufacturers and software developers in the Bay Area. In my infinite wisdom at 27 years old, I didn't want a daycare baby, but I didn't necessarily want to be a stay-at-home mom, and I certainly couldn't afford to be a stay-at-home mom. So I just got this great idea of, you know, starting a company from my house, and I could work from home and take care of my baby and be a wonderful wife all at the same time in a one-bedroom office on a cruise mountain. That's hilarious. But I mean, there are innumerable stories that I could share about my personal and the company's journey from technical writing to development over the past 39 years. But what's important to me is that when I feel I've been successful and when I've been the most happy, it's been when I've led with my heart, creating a family choice versus one that was given to me. Creating a livelihood of choice is the one traditional, you know, stable path that was expected of me. Creating a culture of flexibility and diversity and give back before we ever knew about the triple bottom line. And, you know, for me, that was divine intervention as well. So plan for the worst, expect the best, and roll the dice had become my motto at every juncture. And quite frankly, I was pretty naive at the plan for the worst part. I made pretty much every mistake you could possibly make. I am good at expecting the best and rolling dice, and so I'm still here. In 1996, 15 years into my business, I am fond of saying I fired my CFO and then I divorced him. And we had an understanding that he would buy me out and I would start Breakwater, which was this nonprofit that I had envisioned that would holistically heal struggling single moms in a retreat-like environment. Well, plans, the buyout failed, and the business was on the edge of a cliff with no safety net. So as much as I cried, kicked, screamed, and prayed for a different outcome, realized that for the sake of my two kids, the only way I could, you know, be a responsible mom was to take the business back, buy my ex out, and keep going with $26 in the bank and loans all over town. And you know, what would a different choice have been, you know, what the outcome, I don't know. I've never really spent any time thinking about it, but I know that I made that decision with integrity in my heart and my family close to my heart, and I have nothing but gratitude today. So we fast forward to 2010, when my son Scotty, whom I love dearly and am proud of as well, followed a girl to Minnesota. And oh my God, that kid gave me every gray hair on my head. But he ended up having a couple of angel babies who call me Nina. And hence my move to Minnesota. I'm a third generation Bay Area native who was living the life on a cliff above Capitol. I wanted those babies in my life, real time. I wanted to be an integral part of their lives. My grandmothers were really, really important to me, and I wanted to be more than a FaceTime Nina. So here I am in the frozen tundra and the land of 10,000 lakes. Blessed I've had the best of all worlds pre-COVID-19, but when this whole shitstorm's over, I know I will see all of you and my grandbabies again. Thanks so much, and it's just awesome to be able to see you all here today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Linda. You want to unmute everyone, and thank you very much, Linda. Thank you.
Hey.
And finally, we are going to we'll have everyone mute except for our president-elect. Fernando, take it away.
Well, thanks very much. I'm Fernando Sasuete. I'll be your president coming July 1st, which is zooming up very, very fast. This is also the year, July, that Cecily and I will celebrate our 56th wedding anniversary. We have 3 children and 5 grandchildren, all live here in San Jose. We're going to get together in my backyard at socially distant apart, celebrate that momentous occasion. I was born in Mexico in 1940. My mom brought me and my brother and sister to California, where she promptly got a job working out in the fields, but she couldn't find childcare for me. Apparently nobody wanted to take care of my baby. Evidently was a problem. But my mom's sister, my aunt, and my uncle were childless, and so they said, we'll take care of little Fernandito. And so they took me in, and I lived with them until my uncle passed away when I was 14. We were migrant farm workers. We lived in farm labor camps. We lived in surplus army tents with dirt floors and wood burning stoves, no water, no electricity, no heating. We had outdoor outhouses outside. Thinking about it now, it sounds pretty sketchy, and I guess it was, but that's what we had. Interestingly, there's not much that's changed for our migrant farm workers now than what life was like then. Years later, I went to San Jose State, and I graduated in 1962, and I had applied for a direct appointment as an Air Force officer, and we had to account for every year since the time I arrived in the country to the present. And because we were migrant farm workers, we moved around from town to town following the crops between the Santa Clara and San Joaquin Valley. And we counted 16 schools that I had gone to. And I then went to San Jose State and graduated in business. After that, I became an Air Force officer. After discharge, I worked as a bank manager, a credit officer, a stockbroker, and I worked for an accounting department of a high-tech company. And for me, there were lots of forks in the road. First in the family to go to college. I was an Air Force officer. I was married. I quit the bank to travel around Europe in 1966 with Cecily in the VW camper for a year. Came back and worked as a stockbroker, and then left the stock market because it was sinking. It was at 700, and I thought, this is going to hell quickly. So I changed. What is it now, 24,000? So, but then the biggest, most important challenge of my life, that biggest fork in the road, was when I decided to become a lawyer. The moment the high-tech company I was working for started freezing salaries and laying people off, I decided, I've got to quit this and get a job where I won't be subject to layoffs. And so I didn't want to get an MBA, and I didn't want to become a doctor because I fainted at the sight of blood, but I was very successful in getting out of traffic tickets and parking tickets. So I said, maybe I should become a lawyer. So I decided to do that. But again, that posed a lot of real big questions, big risks. We had a family, we had a mortgage. I'd have to give up a paying job, and after 10 years from graduating from San Jose State, I was going to go back to school. I don't know. At first, I had to pass the law school admissions test, and then if I qualified, I had to apply to several law schools and see if any of them would offer me admission. And even then, who knew if I would qualify to get in and whether or not I could make it, because they would tell you, first year of class, look on either side of you. Those two will be gone. You'll be the only one left. Of course, everybody thought they were the ones that are going to be left, and the others would be leaving. But it was a tough question, and it was a 3-year commitment with no pay. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But, you know, years before I had worked as a bank manager in Davis. I liked it, that it was a small university town near Sacramento, and it had a UC law school. So I decided to apply there. Besides, I could afford the tuition, which isn't the case today. In 1968, Cecily and I had bought our first home in Almaden Valley, and we had started a family. If I took a position here at UC Davis entering class, I'd have to quit my work, sell my house, move to Davis, buy a house there. Cecily would have to get a job, and I would have to go through 3 years of no pay while I'm going through school. I had to succeed. Well, I tell you, unlike most students, I was older, a lot older than most of them, at least by 10 years. I was married, and I had a family, and I owned a home. That wasn't the case for most of the law students. But I enjoyed law school, and I was active in student government. When I was on the law school law review, I wrote an article on the use of court interpreters. And after I got out of law school, that paved the way for me to get a job as a consultant with the Judicial Council of California when I co-wrote the bill that's currently law that requires this language competency of language interpreters in criminal courts. That's probably the most important piece of work that I did as a lawyer, besides helping people in plaintiff's work. We left Davis in 1977 and came to San Jose, where I opened up a solo practice, but I soon joined a firm with 6 other lawyers. They are currently, or they were Rotarians, Bob Morgan, Marilyn Morgan, and Jim Towery. Then I left that firm to go with Jim Bucardo at the Bucardo Law Firm and represented plaintiffs for about 15 years before I went back to solo practice in 1963, and I retired in 2016. Obviously, being a lawyer was a lot better than being a farm worker. I know that. I was often asked to be an MC at a lot of events, both in the Latino community as well as in general community, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being asked to be an MC. I also worked on founding of the Mexican Heritage Plaza. It cost $34 million, which we raised and got done. And after I finished that, I left that in 2010. Then in 2016, I started the Raza Historical Society, where we're documenting and digitizing all of the accomplishments and achievements and contributions of the San Jose's largest and oldest ethnic minority. Well, from where I started as a farm worker child, none of the progression I've described here would have been possible if I had not taken that last fork in the road. And thank you, Jenny Nicholas, for suggesting that, because it made me go back and think and say, I really did have a bunch of forks in the road, and each one that I took has turned out to be a godsend. You know, I used to talk to students in high school, and I always told them that America is a great second chance country, a wonderful third chance, fourth chance country. If you don't like what you're doing, if you don't like the work you're doing, you can always quit. You can always go back to night school or city college, go back to school. You can change jobs if you're unhappy. Well, you can do it multiple times, as I've shown here in talking to you today. But, you know, in order to change, you have to be willing to take the risks. You have to be able to take the risks. And then you have to work your best at doing what you can to succeed. Not to get discouraged that success doesn't come immediately. But like I tell them, this is America. Success will come. So thanks. I look forward to seeing you all in July, and I'm looking forward to it. Back to you, President Karen.
Let's unmute. Thank you very much, Fernando. Thank you.
Se puede. Unmuted to the.
We're all very much looking forward to your presidency.
Go Spartans.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
So that will conclude our meeting. Next week, I will do a broadcast because next week was going to be our barbecue. But I invite those of you who wish to stay on and maybe share a little bit about Bob Keeve. I will, just to make it easy, I will, as if people chat, then I will call on you if you want to say something in these final moments of our meeting. And for those of you who are signing off, I look forward to us getting together again. Remember, we participate, collaborate, and improvise. And on our website, you will see a way that you can help do some contact tracing as a volunteer. Thank you for coming today. And now I will look to see if anyone wanted to say anything about Bob before we before I end this meeting.
Can I say something, Karen?
Yes, please.
You know, Bob and I used to chat in Spanish a lot, and I asked him, how is it that you speak Spanish so well? And that's when he told me that he had gone to Spain after he graduated from Harvard. He had run the radio station at Harvard, learned about using radio, and decided that was going to be his career field. He went to Spain at the invitation of our government to help the Spaniards set up a national broadcasting system. Up to that time, all the radio stations were in different little different cities, Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, and so on. He helped Eugenio Fontan set up this kind of like the NBC, the National Broadcasting Company, but it was for Spain. And while there, he learned Spanish well enough that he wrote a book on how to make this radio network work. And he adopted how to dance the flamenco. He's a fabulous guy who had a wonderful memory. And he introduced me to his Spanish friends. And one of them took Cecily and me to lunch at a restaurant, Lorcher's in Madrid, who turned out to have been operated by the guy that owned a restaurant in Berlin that was favorite of Hitler's. So when this guy asked Hitler, listen, I'd like to have some vacation time. I'd like to open up a restaurant in Spain. Hitler said, no, that's fine. So he went there. Turns out that became the hub for all the international spies that were all mixing around there, and from Portugal and from England and from France and Italy, and all of them were there. It was interesting. When we showed up at this restaurant, I was in my polo shirt, and the guy says, I'm sorry, sir, you need to have a tie. I said, gee, I didn't know that. I don't have a tie. He said, not to worry. He pulled out a tie, put it on my shirt, and invited us in, sat us down. And when Cecily sat down, they brought a little cushion to put under her feet. It was an interesting thing, and it was all thanks to Bob Keeve.
Thank you, Fernando. Ed Correa, you wanted to say something about Bob?
Sure. You know, to me, Bob really embodied Rotary. There are few individuals in this club who speak with such integrity and kindness, and I was really impressed with him from the beginning. I'm very pleased that I invited him to lunch shortly after becoming a Rotarian, and we sat down and I got to know him a little bit. And I really feel privileged. He told me some of the stories from his youth and growing up, and it was so awesome. And when I got an opportunity to do a personal from the podium, and I think it was for Thanksgiving, and Bob said it was going to be so many minutes. He wasn't kidding, because I think there were 7 revisions to my script, and he helped me along with it. And he was so kind and so smart and just such a great individual that I really feel his loss deeply. But I feel very privileged for having gotten to know him. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed. I think Gay Crawford wanted to say something.
Yeah, Karen, this is also Larry. I don't have a keyboard in front of me, so put me in the queue somewhere, will you?
Yep.
Karen, this is Rod. Put me there too, please.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was Rod who let me know that Bob had died. I knew he was in the hospital. And Bob, and I remember Stu Parkazon, I was working with Stu, and we pulled together the broadcasting ascertainment process. And Bob became a friend back in the 80s. And when I joined Rotary, and I don't even know who sponsored me. I think it was either Stu, but Bob introduced me. And it was so funny because he didn't have any notes and everything was wrong about what he said. And we started laughing about it later. But I will always, always miss him, miss his smile. And I think Sal's article said it so beautifully. He would look at you and say, really? Really? You know, and always interested. So we're going to miss him. Thanks for letting me.
Thank you, Gay. Thank you. Sarah Klisch?
So I had the privilege of working for Bob in the late 90s. And I have always had a special place in my heart for him. I was so happy to become a Rotarian. He's the reason that I am a Rotarian, actually, though Nate Deaton is my sponsor. But when I worked for Bob, he was always saying, you've got to join Rotary. You can't join my club, but you've got to join Rotary. And I was too busy, honestly, with other things at that point in my life to make time and space for Rotary. But when I came to the club and had the chance to see Bob again and to interact with him on a regular basis and be reminded about how much encouragement he gave me at the time I worked for him, how much respect he treated me with and still did to his dying day. And I will always smile fondly because I have a beautiful pin that he brought back from me at one of his trips back to Spain that I wear proudly and think of him. So.
Thank you, Sarah. And I just want to remind everyone, if you want to write out anything special, I am putting a book together and I will be giving it to Lenore. So please share your written words too. Larry Stone?
Yes, I actually woke up at 2:30 this morning and started writing down things about Bob in response to your invitation on the book you're putting together. And I'm just going to share a couple of them because I'll share them with you more formally. You know, Rod, I'm sorry, am I on?
Yeah, you are on, Larry.
I'm sorry. Okay, Bob and I wore suspenders. And we wore them all the time, and I still do, and he did until until recent years, I guess. And so we used to share our suspenders. We used to look at the patterns and so forth and talk about them. And so I put him in touch with an online vendor, I guess it was, and he bought some suspenders online. And Bob was what Rod said, he was 5'5" or 5'2" or something. And but he bought extra large. And so he was fighting, and you know, he had some colorful language once in a while as well. And so he was talking to me and very frustrated, talking about these wonderful suspenders he had, but he just couldn't get them to work. So he gave them to me. I didn't particularly like the pattern, and so I gave them to David Ginsburg, who also wears suspenders every day when he's not in COVID lockup. And I think it just was a special thing that we had. You know, I think that, you know, there's so many little stories that everybody has about Bob because he was so gracious and got to know everybody extremely well. So I'm going to stop there, but I've got a number of things that I'm going to say and what I submit to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Larry. Rod, do you have a few brief words?
Yes, Karen, as with Larry, and I've already sent it out to many of you, I right after Lenore called when he died on 7 o'clock a couple of mornings ago, it came spilling out of my head how much he meant to me. I wasn't very close to my father, and Bob really filled that niche through our time from 1970 on when we were close together, and he put me as a young kid on his board, and he helped me through many campaigns, and I tried to help him from time to time. We've already touched on his history, so I'm not going to go through that, but every touch point with history along the way, he did things spectacularly well. he was intellectually gifted. He tried very hard, but didn't appear to be. And he had a moral compass that was ironbound. He did things the honorable way, and he frowned when things weren't done honorably. And to be frowned at by Bob Keeve was not a very happy occasion. He worked through the up times and the bad times with his company, and he worked through up times and bad times with community organizations, many of which he and Carl Cookson and Vic Corsilia and I and others came together and tried to save, and oftentimes did. And he is going to be missed terribly by me personally, but certainly by the community. But his legacy will live on by the way we act every day towards each other.
Thank you. That is so true. I think there's one more iPad 106 raised hand. Who is that?
Oh, I guess that's Norm Holberg. I guess that's me.
Norm.
I don't know why my name doesn't show up. You know, we all have a million little tales of Bob, but one of my favorites is when he was probably about 92 or so, and we were sitting together at one of the tables toward the front, and he was called up to the dais to say something, and instead of going up the ramp as any normal person would at maybe about age 92, no, he jumped straight up from whatever the height is, 14 inches or so. Obviously, he's not a tall person, but jumps up, gives us comments, and then jumps back down the same way. When it came back down, there's this murmur of laughter going through the audience. And Bob turns to me and says, "Why did everybody laugh?" And I said, "Bob, because they're just so delighted to see you and they all want to be like you."
Oh, well, I think I'll end with the story. It was about 2000 when 2002, when I gave a presentation to a small group called Quest, of which Bob was a member. And I was there with a man who had been wrongfully convicted out of Santa Clara County of murder. He was convicted in the late 80s, early 90s, and his attorney came to me when I was the head of the homicide unit at Santa Clara DA's office and explained that her client was innocent. Well, I found that hard to believe, but nonetheless started an investigation. And we realized within about 4 months that in fact, Rick Walker was innocent. We agreed to his release and we captured the actual killer. So Rick Walker came with me to give a presentation to community leaders and to tell his story about being wrongfully convicted. And I knew Bob in a different way after that presentation, because when I looked over to him, and when Rick Walker, the man who had been wrongfully convicted, the man who had served 12 years in prison for something he hadn't done, Bob Keeve was crying. And that's the kind of compassion he had for another human being. And that always stuck with me. And Bob always asked how Rick Walker was doing after that presentation. So we've lost a remarkable Rotarian. And as I said, we will have a eulogy and we will gather our stories about Bob. And thank you all for sharing some of your stories today. It's kind of a sad week.
You're muted, Karen.
Have I been muted the whole time?
No, you're back now. You're only out for 15 seconds.
Okay. So thank you very much. I will see you all virtually soon. And thank you for attending this especially long meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Great to see you all.
Good.
Linda.
See you, Linda.
See you, Linda.
Bye.
Yeah, Karen.
Personal.
Bye.
Good job.
To all
Nice.
the personals. All of you said yes. That was great. Thank you.
Love the personals.
Thank you, Jenny.
Great to see
Bye,
you all.
Linda.